today. Today, we're talking specifically about grounded confidence. And if you are watching it now, go ahead and wave, let us know you're here. If you're watching it later, hit hashtag replay so we can follow up with you and make sure we're addressing any questions that you have on this particular topic. So before I get into it, I just want to give a little bit of back history. I very much, especially in like my early and mid, maybe even late 20s, can tell you that I owned like the fake it till you make it mantra like it was nobody's business. I aggressively bullied my way, not bullied, but I pushed my way forward in my career by faking it till I made it. And although that was what I could do then, I know with the work that I've done on myself, like that's nothing I can do now. And my husband and I have often had discussions about, we come from the same industry. So, either colleagues that we had both known at one point in time, or people that we may each interact with in our own working environments. And the people that have like the blustery type of confidence, the very fake it till you make it confidence, versus grounded confidence. And when I came across Brené Brown's definition of grounded confidence, which I'm going to read to everybody in just a few minutes, that really made the word confidence, when you added grounded, it made the word confidence a lot more accessible, at least to the discussions that my husband and I were having about confidence and about confidence in colleagues. So the Mindful Leaders Academy is actually reading the Brené Brown's book, Dare to Lead, for our monthly book club or bi-monthly book club. But I wanted to share with you specifically from her work here, and I'm just going to read it so I don't misquote, how she explains grounded confidence, because I just think it's so beautiful. Grounded confidence is the messy process of learning and unlearning, practicing and failing, and surviving a few misses. This brand of confidence is not blustery arrogance or posturing or built on bullshit. It's real, solid, and built on self-awareness and practice. Once we witness how courage can transform the way we lead, we can trade the heavy, suffocating armor that keeps us small for grounded confidence that lifts us up and supports our efforts to be brave. Grounded confidence, again, isn't blustery. It's not that BSing that I talked about and openly admit doing in my 20s, right? It's not fake it till you make it. It is knowing what you can offer, knowing the experiences that you're grounded in, that you've had, and using that to extend your tentacles, to build out and to grow upon. So I'm just going to pause and see if, I know Lisa just popped in, but for Lisa and Janessa, if anything's coming over the chat, if there are any questions about grounded confidence and why I'm sharing that definition from Brené Brown's work, and I'm sharing the importance of understanding that terminology. So any questions from anybody so far about grounded confidence? All right. I think it's really important as well. And there's a link that I have put in the chat because I wanted to make sure those that were in the Zoom call can get it. And Janessa, if you can go ahead and drop it into the Facebook group. This is an article, it's one of the most widely read articles actually in HBR about how and why we should stop telling women they have imposter syndrome. And I'm deliberately pairing this particular article that I would like everybody to read later. And there's a great follow-up article as well. But pairing this article with grounded confidence, because we very often have adopted or taken on this. It's easy to say, oh, I'm just having imposter syndrome. I just need to muscle through. When really what we might be feeling is some reasonable doubt in our own abilities, right? We can have grounded confidence knowing what our experience is, knowing that we have resources available to us to call upon to ask questions when we're branching out into new territory. But we can still have concerns or a little bit of healthy self-doubt, and that's not imposter syndrome. So I would like us all, when we're feeling that uncomfortableness of stretching and growing, to get very clear on what we are confident about, what we have grounded confidence in. And then from there, what that feeling of discomfort is. Is it imposter syndrome? Or is it perhaps some healthy self-doubt? And then tapping into what that healthy self-doubt can actually teach us or how it can guide us. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are an accomplished project manager and you're now going from owning one really big project to owning a program of projects, right? You are feeling some insecurity about that. You're feeling excitement because you've been ready. You've been working towards growing into this role, but now you're there. You've got this series of projects. You're responsible for maybe some of this feeling of uncertainty or discomfort is coming up because you're waking up in the middle of the night a little bit anxious. You wake up at 3 o'clock thinking, wait, did I do X, Y, and Z? Because, oh, wait, I wasn't thinking about that before. Or maybe it's keeping you from following up with certain teams that maybe aren't delivering some of the projects at the level that you need them to be. Whatever may be holding you back, examining that and thinking, okay, why am I either not acting or feeling as though I need to, my subconscious is triggering me awake at 3 a.m. What's going on here? Diving deep into that. And I'd encourage us all to use an often used tactic or technique in CAPA responses, right? In digging deep to a root cause and understanding the 5 whys, right? Continuing to go deep. So let's just take the fact that maybe now you're a program manager, one of the project leads isn't delivering the information to you in a timely fashion and you're resisting following up with them. Asking yourself why. Why am I not more assertively following up with this person? What's going on there? Getting an answer to that and continuing to dig deep to why. Some of it may come down to confidence, at which point you need to look at the successes that you've had. You need to look at and realign yourself and be grounded about knowing why you've grown to where you've grown. And from there, understand where you're moving into a territory of discomfort and really getting clear for yourself, is that imposter syndrome or is that just some healthy doubt? Maybe I actually am a little concerned about how I'm going to approach that person and it's more emotional intelligence that I'm feeling a lack of. Really digging into it so that you can use your grounded confidence and your healthy self-doubt and together marry those two to propel yourself forward, right? Looking at it not as something that's good or bad, but as something that's informing you so that you can then make a decision or an action plan, or even say to a mentor or a friend, like, this is the situation I'm in and I actually am not sure what to do about it. I don't know why I'm doing this, or I don't know how to start to do X, Y, and Z. But again, marrying your grounded confidence and your healthy self-doubt so that you build upon your grounded confidence and continue to propel yourself forward. So I'm going to pause one more time and take a sip of water and just see if anybody has any questions or thoughts about that.
I would throw in that when I find myself doubting, I tap into my challenge network. So the folks that I have around me that I know I can trust, because they just have solid heads on their shoulders and will give me a really good perspective, but also are not afraid to tell me when I'm going down the wrong path. So some of the typical questions are either to myself or to my challenge network would be, so how could this go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What are the risks at this? How could this go sideways on me? Or have you stepped back again and said, what's your larger goal? Sometimes I'm having those self-doubts because I'm so in the weeds that I've sort of forgotten where I need to go. When I come back up and realize, come out of the weeds and you look around, you're like, oh, there's where I'm going. And that answers my question.
And that answers your question. Great. And can we just dive in for anybody that's not familiar with the term of challenge network? I think I often refer to that as your personal board of directors.
Yep.
Yeah. And can you tell me more about how you describe that and define that?
I pull it out of, I think it's Adam Sinek's work, maybe. A group of folks that you depend on to be a sounding board, to speak openly and frankly with you that the best ones to have on your challenge network are ones that don't always see the things the same way you do. You definitely don't want a bunch of yes person, but you also want your challenge network to have perspectives you hadn't thought of before, because they just look at things different than you.
Yeah, no, I love that, Lisa. Thank you so much. Yeah, I often talk about that as your personal board of directors, but yeah, the challenge network is another term for it. And this is something that we all ideally should be cultivating and thinking about as, you know, we're expanding in our leadership. And they have to be people that you trust, right? Because you need to be able to go to them when you're feeling either that healthy self-doubt, or perhaps it even is imposter syndrome. You know, really, you're not feeling your most profound, your most expansive, but you want to. And so these are the connections that can really help you build that. So that's wonderful and a great add. And even the taking a step back and saying, wait, am I looking at the strategic, the bigger picture? Am I looking at the 30,000 foot view? Do I need to? Does that change the perspective? Looking at things differently can very quickly help identify what you might be missing, what you are maybe honing in on to, just because you're a perfectionist, or you might have perfectionist tendencies, right? So these are all great ways to re-examine the situation. So when you're feeling that self-doubt, understanding what you have accomplished. Okay, so it's Adam Grant, yeah, that coined the term challenge network. Wonderful, thank you for clarifying that. No, it's a great, yeah, it's just a great term. And knowing that we all deserve to be, we've all earned the right, perhaps overly earned the right to be where we are right now, and to continue to move forward is going to require more development of our skills. And it's just this wonderful opportunity, right, to continue to develop our skills. So marrying, again, the grounded confidence and the healthy self-doubt. I was on a show earlier today where I was talking with a woman that specifically coaches women that have young children, and she calls it work like a mother or something like that. And it's great. We'll drop the link into the Facebook group. But we were talking about the fact that the work never ends. And when I'm talking about the work never ending, of course, I mean the work, like from your organization, or the work that you're doing in your community, the work that you're doing as a parent, the work that you're doing with your loved ones, perhaps even as a child, the work never ends, right? As our parents age, the work never ends there, but also the work on ourselves, that never ends. Like you work through, and maybe you processing a block that you have, or a limiting belief that you run up against, that you recognize is not really your belief. Somehow you've inherited it and incorporated it, and it's kept you smaller than you want to be. You work through that in whatever modality you use to work through these, and you keep going. You keep growing in your career. You keep expanding in your life. And then there's more. That part never ends. Sometimes it's the same limiting belief, but it shows up in a different realm. I'll give you an example. I'm working with a woman right now who has broken through some leadership barriers that she had because of self-doubt. I could never be at this level. And then now, about 9 months later, we're working through the same I can never be at this level related to financial wealth, actually. So it may be the same type of limiting belief. It may even be the same limiting belief, but just showing up in a different realm of your life. So this is what I mean by when I say the work never ends. This is the work that never ends as well, right? So recognizing that and understanding that as you're going through life, as you're on this journey, as you're doing this work, it's okay to be tired and it's okay to rest. It's not in our best interest to give up, right? We may have to take a rest, and that is completely fine. You may come up against a limiting belief that you thought you processed in your early 30s, and you're like, oh my gosh, look, you're back. Oh, what do you have to teach me? Oh my gosh, I didn't want to learn this again, but I guess I need to, or whatever, but it just keeps coming. And so also knowing that, you know, some people say it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's actually more than that. It's a lifelong journey. And so recognizing when you're feeling that healthy self-doubt, that there's something that can that is there to inform you right now. It's not, it's a feeling of discomfort. So naturally as humans, we want to make it go away as quickly as possible. But if we can marinate in it a little, if we can dive into what it might be teaching us, we not only become more able to grow in the areas in which we really need to grow as individuals, but we also become better leaders. We become better at our skill. We become better at how we're leading others. And so calling upon your grounded confidence can allow you to stay in that and to marinate in that. Like, I am worthy of being where I am right now because I've worked hard to get here. I've learned a lot. I've accomplished a lot. I'm here. This is uncomfortable. Ugh. Let's dive into why. Grounded confidence really being the basis for allowing that marination to happen and seeing what can come up. Any thoughts on that? Janessa, do we have anything coming in on the chat right now?
Nope, nothing coming through yet.
Coming through right now? Okay. Lisa and Elisa, anything I can help answer about that specifically, or we can get into any sort of laser coaching or support that you might need today?
That's a very interesting topic, and it's really, I think the 5 why process is it's very helpful in general. I think it just kind of like goes beyond the surface of what you sort of see and allows you to really think it through. So, and I'm gonna apply that to one particular situation that I have right now where I'm aware that I'm sort of like using avoidance because I feel like I don't know how to do a specific thing, and it's bothering me because I know it needs to be done, but it's that like I don't know whether I'll be able to do it correctly kind of idea. And instead of like, understanding why I keep avoiding it and why I really think that I can't do that. And what else I can do instead is sort of like always ends up at the bottom of the list. So I kind of like, I pick it up and I put it down and pick it up and I put it down, and it's not really productive, right? I mean, a lot of other things get done, which is good. So I still get my sense of accomplishment for the day, but there is that one thing that is like nagging. It's like, you still have to do that, right? It's not going away. So you might want to just deal with it. So I might do some introspection this afternoon, try to get to the bottom of it.
No, that's wonderful. It's good that you've identified that there's this thing that's nagging you like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to highlight that this is one of those things that can actually be an energetic drain, right? We don't realize how much of our energy is tapped into by those things that we are avoiding. It's almost like the resistance of said activity, for whatever reason, is actually taking more energy from us than actually doing the activity, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. This particular one is because somebody else sort of like gave it to me as a task, and I feel like I'm letting that person down, right? So there's that component, speaking of like wasting energy, there is all that component of like, okay, this person is really relying on me to do this, and it's sort of like not getting it really done, and sort of like tiptoeing around it. And so I agree, it's a big waste of energy.
And if you dive into the whys about this, if you allow yourself, and I'd say, budget at least a half an hour to sit with it, as hard as that can be in a day. If you sit with it and you really are truthful with yourself and you're sitting with it and you're like, all right, so why am I not doing this? And you've got the superficial reasons, and then you keep digging, right? You keep going through the 5 whys. You may find some sort of belief that actually transcends to other parts of your life. Like there may be a root cause that, and now I'm just making this up, but you might get to a point where you're like, I feel like I have to do everything perfectly or I shouldn't do anything at all. Oh, whoa, that can apply everywhere, right? Like you might really get to something that then you're like, oh, this is the lesson in this for me. This is what I get to learn by doing this activity. Like I also know I just need to do it, right? And remembering, I think it's Pareto's principle, right? The 80-20 rule. 80% of what we, 20% of what we do makes 80% of the difference, something like that. I'm messing it all up because I'm trying to recall it, but if anybody knows it for sure, feel free to jump in. But knowing that, you know, of all the to-dos and feeling accomplished by checking off all of the other to-dos, you've still got that one thing. And maybe it's actually not one of those things that is in the 20% that really moves the dial for your company or whoever you're working for. And it just might be something else that you're postponing for another reason. And you'll get into that. Or it might be one of those things that actually really does shift how the work is being done. It shifts who is doing the work. I like to use that analogy a lot when people are talking about the burden of onboarding team members, right? Well, I just didn't have time to train them well. No, you have to make that time to train them well, because that's going to alleviate the workload that's on you. And carving out that time is critical. So identifying too, if that's one of those tasks, or if there's other reasons why you're not, why it's been there, right? What can it teach you?
Yeah.
And then having the compassion not to beat yourself up, like, especially when you get it done and you're like, wow, that was really easy. I could have felt this good 3 weeks ago. You know what? There was some lesson in that. Having the compassion for yourself, not to beat yourself up, learn that lesson, integrate that lesson, and move on.
Yeah. I think it's part of it is what you said. It's like, because I'm afraid of doing it wrong, then, but the reality is that if you don't start, you know, it's something that it's not, you know, as long as it's not life and death, everything can be somewhat repaired, right?
Don't work with emergency organizations.
If I do it one way and it's not correct, at least I get feedback and I can do it better, right? It's so part of it is actually what that it's like, if it's not done perfect, then I'd rather not do it, which I know it's silly, because it's like, yeah, well, nobody knows everything from the get-go. So
yeah, nobody does.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you already have started your 5 whys. Lisa, is there anything that you have before you have to jump off?
No, this has been great. This has been great. I really like the distinction between grounded confidence and imposter syndrome, and making that I like that distinction a lot.
Yeah, that HBR article really, because I had been talking a lot about imposter syndrome, and when I read that, I took a step back, and it forced me to look at things very differently, right? There are times where we may feel imposter syndrome. There are times where we may feel healthy self-doubt. Okay. and then there are times where the system is just structured such that you telling us we have imposter syndrome is just perpetuating the system. So just looking at all of that can really grant us new lenses in which to view the world, and really in how we operate and how we help lead others, and, you know, bring more women together and talk about things like this. So thanks so much.